Hey,
Hey,
welcome back, Rodger.
hey, what's up, Dustin?
I hope the sound's working. We haven't done this in a while, so I don't wanna assume it's working. So we might hear a little echo just to make sure.
Okay.
Sounds like it's good. You hear me in the background there for a second.
Yep.
Um,
Sort
all
of
right,
hearing
so this
something.
is our weekly live streams on Wednesdays. We're gonna do them again every Wednesday until hopefully until the end of season 12 of the Board Game with Education video cast. So that is until um July-ish.
Okay.
Grace is already watching with us. Hi, Grace. Thanks
Hey,
for saying
Grace.
hi. So I'm excited. We're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch now. This is something really new to me. I actually really like Twitch, but I'm never on there, and I want to try to use it a little bit more as like a audience person or just someone who uses the platform. Have you used Twitch a little bit?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah.
I've watched it, but I haven't ever used it for anything. But I know a lot of people that do.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's cool because they have like you can create your own stickers and
Mm-hmm.
you can comment on that. You
Yeah.
can do a lot of things like to engage with your community, so that's pretty cool.
Sure.
But again, I've only used it a handful of times, and we were on a couple of guests. We were guests on a couple Twitch
Mm-hmm.
streams, right? I
Yeah.
was a
Yeah,
guest,
we
then
were.
we joined Ian Zhang for his monstrosity.
Right.
He played monstrosity, so that was
Yeah,
cool.
we did. We did there, and we did. Who else is you and I were on another one too? Why in the heck am
Yeah.
I forgetting? Chris.
Oh yeah, right. Chris
Yeah.
does Twitch too. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I guess I always watch him on Facebook, so I
Right.
forget.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can
Forget.
go over to Twitch for that stuff
Yeah.
too. So
That's kind of I guess what we're doing now. I don't know. I'm torn between as a marketing standpoint and like engaging the community too. It's like do you spread yourself out or do you consistently do one? And I think it's better to do all three just because some
sure.
people aren't on Facebook. Like some
Yep.
people hate Facebook. And so at
Yeah,
least we're there
exactly.
on YouTube or Twitch.
Yep. I think the more options you give people, the better.
Yeah, right.
Because then
Cool.
they can go where they're comfortable doing it, and I think we can hopefully make it work on
Yeah,
any
for
one of
sure.
those.
Yeah. And our YouTube channel is pretty small right now, but this is something we'll be talking about here in a minute. We're going to be adding some more YouTube content. But before we get to that, I want to start off with something we'll do each week, just a fun question. And if you have suggestions on questions we can ask week by week, you should leave one in the comment and we'll ask a question or answer a question next week.
Mhm.
But first things first, the question that I have is what is something interesting you've seen or witnessed, I should say witnessed recently about games or board games?
Okay. You
So I'll
going
let you go
first?
first
Oh, yeah.
while I fix
Put me on the spot here.
fix the proofreading here.
Well, I was in. I work at a board game store, and we had a dad and a couple of his kids come in. I think it was Saturday, and so they were looking around. They rode their bikes over to our store. They go, "Oh yeah, we live really close. We would meet," and they were wandering all through the store, grabbing stuff and asking. Of course, I was trying to point him to some, just being the teacher thing, still trying to point him some educational stuff, but stuff that was being
Yeah.
fun. And they were walking around grabbing different things, and like it was interesting. Like they grabbed, I don't know if you're aware of this game, Dustin, but they grabbed Bus. It's a splotter. Yeah, and
I know the
yeah,
publisher. Yeah.
yeah,
They make some very like
heavy,
esoteric games and
yeah,
very
and
heavy stuff too.
yeah. So they were walking around with that one. I was like, huh, man, if they come up to the counter, I might not. I mean, we'd love to sell it, but I don't know if that was for just looking at the ages of them. I was like, I don't know, that might be a little too much. But they wound up putting it bound. But one of the games they decided on, they brought it up was Ice Cool.
Oh, okay.
And so I just looked over because I wasn't ringing them up, and I go, that's a really good choice. And the dad's like, really? Yeah, he looks really fun. I go, your kids will love it. I said, I haven't met any kid that doesn't like that game. And I said, and I just told the dad, I said, just be prepared. They're probably going to clobber the snot out of you with that one too, because they're usually good at that stuff.
Yeah. So For anyone
But
not familiar, Ice Cool is like a dexterity game
hmm
where you are penguins trying
hmm
to escape the hall monitor. So one
right.
of the players plays the hall monitor while the other players play the students. I think they're trying to go get like fish for lunch.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
they're
that's kind
trying
of
to
the
they're trying to
idea.
get stuff, but it's like a little the piece is heavy weighted on one end, and so you can flick it, and it's the board is actually it's rooms, it's got rooms that you can flick, but you can do all kinds of different things. They give you all kinds of suggestions to make the thing jump over the walls and land and hit the other ones and stuff like that. But yeah, I played it a few times, and I actually thought it was really fun. It's usually
Yeah.
sometimes dexterity games aren't really something I'm super into, but that one's great.
I'm
So
trying to pull up a picture here, but maybe we won't have time to do it. Just a
yeah,
real
it's
quick
really, really good game
show,
though. Yeah.
show
So I mean,
picture of it.
saying you want to, if anything, you want to get kids kind of into games. I think that's a really good choice. No
So
matter
this
what
is
you're.
just the
Yeah.
we disappeared.
Oop.
The Just a Google search of Ice Cool, so some pictures
Yeah.
from Google.
But just love the little thing where you're flicking like that one picture you got over on the bottom, about in the middle of the page.
Oh, right here. Yeah.
Yeah, that one kind of shows it pretty well. What you're doing and where you can flick them and stuff. But yeah, it's super fun and plays a lot of people too. So, it's good engagement, I think. But a
Cool.
good starter game, I think, for kids.
Yeah, for sure. And so my interesting thing is I recently played Pokemon, the trading card game, online with someone I tutor privately. We just needed a break from our normal lessons, so we decided to do this. And I teach ESL, so I help him with his schoolwork to prepare for his English class and English tests and reading comprehension, all that good stuff. So instead, we played Pokemon. We read some cards. We used some math. It was really cool for me because the game is almost exactly the same as it was when I played as a kid. Um, so it was fun to play. Like we played as a team, and he kind of just told me what to do. And this was his first time playing, so it was
Mhm.
cool to see him connect with Pokemon in a different way because he's played the Switch game and he's played Pokemon Go, so he's very familiar with those things, but not necessarily card game. And we had him like he read the flavor text of the cards and just the actions, and it's pretty cool because that's one thing I like to share about learning language is you can learn some pretty heavy vocabulary from those games and learn about how language works within
Mhm.
following rules.
Right.
And just as an example, like he was able to teach me or tell me what the word resistance means in his own words. And he's 9 years old, and English is his second language.
Right.
Resistance is a pretty higher level vocabulary word for
Sure.
English language learners, especially. I mean, even English learners. I don't know if yeah, I would say resistance. Maybe about 9 years old, you probably know what that word means by that time.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, cool. All right. So the next thing is just some board game with education updates. Just a couple things. The first thing, we shared this before with our community, and again, excited for this. And thank you, Rodger. We're because of you, we were able to pull this together too, and everyone that's a part of our community and sharing what we do and our mission of using tabletop games for learning. So we won the Gamma Award, Game Association Manufacturers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's it stand for?
Game Associated Manufacturers Association. Oh, what is that?
Game.
Oh, why am all of a sudden am I forgetting the name? That's not sounding good. So yeah, I'm just
Gaming. Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank too.
we're gonna look it up because I don't want to.
Butcher it.
The Game Manufacturers Association.
Yeah, I'm getting thrown off why there's a GA.
Yeah, right. But it's just the
Game
Game
Manufacturers
Manufacturers
Association.
Association. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just the GA that they use, and then the MA stands for Manufacturers Association. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So maybe it's kind of a play on the word game. Maybe.
Yep,
I'm not
I
sure.
think so.
Maybe
I
I
think
have
so.
to read up on the history of the organization. But essentially, they are like the industry, the board game industry organization. They usually have an expo every year.
Mhm.
Yeah, Peter says Gamma.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yep. Game.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, so it's really cool to be able to do that or to win that award and be recognized for what we're doing. And hopefully, I mean, we're kind of connecting with people in the field of board games as a whole and connecting with other people who are doing similar things like Tabletop Alliance and Old Board Games. This is something I'll talk about here in a minute. Is I was able to give a panel with them, and they're doing similar stuff about using tabletop games for learning. So it's really cool to be able to help or be recognized for what we're doing, and also work with others to kind of grow this idea of tabletop games for learning.
Right.
So the next thing, you haven't seen this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this is
I was just gonna say what the name of the award was, because it was the best innovation in games retail was the official thing that we won. So
innovation.
I'm glad somebody was kind of somebody was watching what we were doing. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. And the other thing, if I can pull it up, I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. This is a video clip from our video cast. So we are releasing season 12 of the video cast of Board Game with Education. Normally we do a podcast. So last season you were on a bunch of episodes. I want to say 4 or 5. This time around, we're just doing video casts, which is me and one other guest for now. And hopefully we'll figure out a way to kind of have fun with the video format. But I want to share a clip from Danielle. She is from Board Game Babies. So I'm going to pull up her Instagram stuff. So you can follow her on Instagram, but it was really cool to have her on the show because she talked about how she has used games this past year for hybrid learning and for at-home learning. So she has a few, I think 3 kids. I'm trying to remember their ages. One was in 2nd grade. I think one was a little bit older, and one was preschooler. So the preschooler was at home learning, and the other ones were hybrid. So they were going to school, I think 2 or 3 times a week. And then she was using games to supplement their learning at home too. But she shares a little bit in this clip. She's going to share a little bit about how she got into using games for learning. And if you are interested in watching the entire video cast, the entire interview, that'll be out on Monday. Let's go to this clip.
But we've realized that there's so much they can learn through games that is more educational. So we, like when the pandemic happened, we're in like a totally different situation than we were a year ago. Right. So we now have kids who are learning at home for a significant chunk of their time. And I can kind of talk about what our situation looks like. But we have a child who's in 2nd grade who is doing hybrid schooling. And so that means she goes to school 2 to 3 days a week. And then the other days she doesn't even get online with a teacher. She's just doing like 2 hours of homework.
Oh, okay.
So when she started doing that in spring, we realized that some of the stuff she was doing with school was just very frustrating for her. The computer program was like really difficult as a 1st grader to figure out how to click through. And worksheets are super boring for her. So one of the things we started playing constantly was Sleeping Queens. Are you familiar with that game?
Yeah. Would you mind just quickly sharing an overview?
Yes, and I have it right. Yeah.
So
this is like one of my favorite because it's like one of the ones that really got us into thinking differently about using games with our kids and not just like to teach them taking turns and winning or losing.
Right.
But
cool.
So yeah,
that's
had
really
a little bit longer beard then. Kind of disappears. But she shares a lot of tips and some different game recommendations that she uses at home and how she uses them for games for learning. And it's really cool to hear some stories she shares with her kids and how they were able to kind of engage them with learning in a positive way that they weren't getting at school, especially during the pandemic. So, I'm excited for that to come out on Monday.
Cool.
All right. So one last update with Board Game with Education, and that is our newsletter. So that is in the description wherever you're watching this at. So you can sign up there. There's just a bunch of updates that we have going on that we don't always, or maybe we don't want to share right now, because it would be the whole episode, maybe the whole stream. We want to get into
Mhm.
some fun stuff. But if you sign up for our newsletter, you get updates for just about everything going on with Board Game with Education. Some things, just some highlights. We're building out more resources. What else are we doing? We want to start reaching out to schools. So if you know any schools interested in maybe exploring more board games for their classroom or for summer programs, trying to remember what else was in the recent newsletter. We share some recent games we've added to the store. Cartographers was one of them. Brass
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Yeah, I was mixing up Lancashire and Birmingham. Yeah. So the next part, and I'm going to go to you first. Oh no, next part is what's going on out there. So we're going to talk about. Well, no, let's do that next. So I
change of plans.
Yeah. Rodger and I talked about sharing a game from Board Game with Education. So Rodger, you get to go first.
Always put me on the spot.
I feel like I've been talking a lot, so it's your turn. You want to share one of the games from Board Game with Education, kind of maybe a game that's kind of stood out to you recently?
I'll pick Cytosis, and I think that has to do with because Genius Games has got a predecessor game coming out, so that's kind of made me think about that game. But it's just it's a worker placement game with really good graphics and everything, and kind of explaining how the cell works, but in a really fun, interesting way that's really incorporating a lot of the actual science that's involved in there. So you're kind of looking at how like it's a human cell, but being an animal cell, right? And like the processes and, how does it, take in whatever and how does it work and everything, but it just does it in a really cool way. So you can kind of understand how the different parts that are in the cell, which we refer to as organelles, like how do they work and how do they kind of interact with one another. And I think that game does a really good job kind of, showing you, in a simpler way, but it gives you a good idea, something kind of that might appear a little more, abstract to some people, but gives it a little more, concrete look to it. And I love the look of it too. I think that's something I find really pulls me in. The graphic design is really well done.
Yeah.
This makes it interesting when stuff looks good. Sometimes I think that hooks you in. I mean, it's got to have the mechanics, but I think that might be good for kids and students and stuff. I think it's more, probably, middle school, high school, college level game though. It's probably not for, younger kids, but, because they're not going to be covering stuff like that, when they're younger.
Right. I mean, I do like the game is you have the potential to play the game without really diving into the science. If you want to, you could entirely ignore it. So there is that option. So if the science kind of scares you, you don't have to know it to play the game, which is good. But it definitely helps you refresh your memory.
Right.
Yeah. And
but but like I was saying, what I think what's really well done on that though, what John over at Genius Games, what those guys have done a great job with is without you even really realizing it, you're picking up those things. I mean, you kind of like it just that you do learn the stuff when you're playing it and you don't even realize it. So it's kind of sneaky, I don't think there's any deception there, but I think they did a really good job, kind of like somehow hooking you in, make the game fun. Like, oh, wow, I'm actually learning about, a cell that I didn't even really realize, or I kind of remember that from biology or whatever,
Grace says Cytosis is such a great game. Yeah, she would say that because she usually wins this type of game.
Yep. Oh, I love it. I like worker placement, and I think it's a really well done worker placement game, though. Mechanically, it's super solid too. So,
yeah. And before I share my game, I want to share something that we do at Board Game with Education, and Rodger really put in a lot of work to put this together. Is our learning resources. So these two things, you can just go to Cytosis and you can kind of view these on your own. But this is just Board Games in the Classroom. It kind of talks about the vocabulary, some standards that you can align the game with, just some overview, and then also some learning ideas. So talking about ways to use the game. One thing that I always suggest with games is to maybe consider stations. That's my favorite way to maybe introduce games. That way, as a teacher, you don't need to buy a bunch of copies. You can probably get away with just 1 or 2 copies.
Right.
And then there's the other resources come after your purchase, so complimentary with those games too. All right, and I'm gonna share mine, but I have the game in front of me, so I'm not gonna use the site.
Yeah, I could have pulled my copy out. I have it right back here.
Yeah. So this is again. I talked about this. I guess. Cool. Did I talk about it recently? I mean, I've talked about it in some live videos recently, but I just put out some short videos. So on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, you can watch.
I love that box.
A 30-second. Yeah, the box is so cool, and it opens like this.
Like a book. It looks good. It's cool.
Yeah, the inside, you got like some really solid components. This is the collector's edition, so it does have some upgraded components like wooden pieces and a metal. Oh my, what is that called?
First player marker?
Like, it's not the first player marker. I'm trying to think of like the real world term. It balances justice. Like, what is it?
A scale, or what's the?
I think that it is a scale, but I think there's a term for it. When it comes to that specific terminology, I can't remember the name of it though. Anyways, Unforgiven, it's a 2-player game, so it's not like a big group game. It is just 2 players, but it talks about, or it goes into detail about the assassination trial of Lincoln. And it's not the assassination trial of John Wilkes Booth. It's not John Wilkes Booth. It's Mary Surratt. So apparently I learned this from the game and looking into researching a little bit more. Apparently there was a push to arrest different conspirators around Lincoln's assassination trial. And there is a controversy in today's historians have a controversy over whether they actually pursued justice or they overstepped some freedoms of Mary Surratt. So they ended up hanging her, and there's a controversy on whether that was actually constitutional and whether that should have happened. And then they also, I guess there were trials with others involved in that conspiracy, because based on the history from what I learned, and I mean, I'm not a historian, from what I learned is that she owned a boarding home in which John Wilkes Booth and others involved in the assassination used. And that was kind of the way to tie her to the assassination. Right. But again, I'm not a historian, and apparently it's pretty controversial as whether she got whether justice was served or whether she was innocent. But the game's fun. It's like Seven Wonders Duel, if anyone's familiar with that. But I just want to share a little bit about the history and background of the game.
Right. Not just as a segue off of that, didn't they just do a movie about that here pretty recently? I don't know. I've seen a preview of it. I don't know why. It just seems within the last couple of months or something, or last month.
Maybe
they've made a movie about that situation. I mean, like I said, I don't know how factual the film is, but I just, gosh, I don't remember the name of it. That it's about that. And I don't remember the actress that plays her, but it kind of revolves around that whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing a few videos when I was searching. I didn't watch all of them. I watched the shortest ones.
Right.
So one of them could have been. I know one was definitely a documentary, and one of them could have been a movie too. But
there's an actual movie though. There's definitely a movie that, not. I don't know how old it is, but it seems pretty recent. Pretty recent.
Yeah. I'll have to look too. Grace says the game definitely made me realize how much I forgot about biology.
Yep. Because some people, I get it. That's not something that you kind of use. Yeah, I mean, it just depends what you go into, right? I mean,
it's interesting. I mean, the only biology that I've kind of used in my adult life now is about training, like as a runner. I'm kind of aware of some higher level processes, not really like the specifics and the terminology, but more just like how it works.
Sure.
Oh, Grace did some research for us, and apparently the movie is called The Conspirator from 2010. Now I
Yep,
want to
that's the
watch
one. That's the one I was thinking of. Thanks, Grace.
it.
I knew that was. I couldn't remember the name of it. And I remember seeing a preview of it here on probably watching some other movie, and I know it was on the previews.
Mm.
And normally I skip through those, but that looked kind of interesting. I stopped and looked at it. So
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that history was a thing, and that's what's so cool about games is kind of, I mean, any art form, right? Any art form can really do that, but
sure,
games have that ability to draw you in and then do a little bit more research afterwards.
right, right.
All right, so what's next? Let's see. Oh, we're gonna play our game, so I'm excited for this. I am going to see if anybody else wants to play. If you are watching, you can play in the comments. We're gonna play. Is that? Oh no, the game's not yet. We have one more thing to do before the game. We're gonna always do one segment each week, at least one segment. Today's segment is what's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do these fun titles and create some little cards for them.
There you go.
So a look at the field of games for learning. So we're going to look at just a broader, like, I guess, a broader approach of what's going on in games for learning, some things that are happening. And I want to share a thing that I was involved in this last weekend, and it was games-based learning virtual conference. So this was really cool. It was 3 days, and there were different speakers. I'm just going to go over just a couple that I was able to watch. So Constance Steinkuhler was one of them. And she was a keynote speaker. Another one, Kimberly Tolson, she talked about what to expect in your classroom after returning from the pandemic. So she's been teaching in person since last fall. So she's kind of had that experience. So she talks about how games can help foster relationships in the classroom after the pandemic. Jeremy talked about Among Us. I didn't have a chance to catch his, but I hope to. There's just so many. There's like 30 different speakers. I kind of want to share a couple, just the keynote speakers if I can get to them. Another one is Tracy Fullerton. She created a game about, what's the name of the game? I'm trying to remember. Walden. I guess it's just called Walden. So it's about Henry David Thoreau, the book Walden. I'm not very familiar with the book because I've never read it, but it's a simulation game, an entertainment game, and then she's going to be adapting it for the classroom too, coming soon. And then the other keynote speakers that I just want to share. Oh, wait, before we get, this is another one I was able to watch. Naomi and Jim, they've developed different courses at Brown and used gamification as ways to engage their students at Brown University, which is like their presentation was so cool to see. And then just a couple others that I just want to share. There's me.
Yeah.
But I think most people that are familiar with Board Game of Education know what we talked about. What we talked about, Bruce from Tabletop Alliance, Matt from All Aboard Games, and myself talked about using games to foster more empathetic learning environments. And then a couple others, Yukai Chow. So he is like the person to go to for gamification. And his keynote was really cool. And then Jeff Engelstein is someone who's on the podcast, but he is a game designer, board game designer. And it was really cool to hear his talk as well. But that's just one thing that's happening. Another thing is this kind of just happened today. So this is new news to Rodger too, is we are part of the Game School Network, which is really awesome because Rodger and I are not homeschool parents.
Right.
But we are educators and we know the power of games. And it's really awesome to be able to work with some homeschool parents and talk about how they've used games in their classroom at home for learning. So it's really cool to be part of this and be able to learn from their experiences as well. The Game School Network is a network of game school media, and so homeschool parents that are using games for learning.
Cool.
And if you go to About Us, you can click on this and go to the Game School Network Facebook page. All right.
Is that a web page too?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they are, I think, going to be creating a website.
But
Right now, it's just a Facebook
it's just a
page.
it's just a Facebook group. Okay.
Yeah, it's put on by, I'll share his website. He's the one putting it all together. Game School Adventures. So I'll share his site here just to kind of get a picture of it. Game School Adventures. Ryan is the owner and runner. He runs this site, and he's putting on this network for other game school creators as well. Yeah. All right. So the last thing, this is what everyone's been waiting for, is our game. All right. So you played this before, Rodger, but for anyone
Yep.
who has not played, it's called Is That For Real a Board Game? I think we can do this, and I'm going to present here in a second. So, a game about guessing games. You have to guess whether the game I share is really a board game or if it's a made up game that I just kind of made up on my own. So I've played with these specific games already with a future guest on the video cast. So if you're watching and you are that future guest, you cannot play if you happen to be watching. But if you are watching, feel free to join in the comments. You can guess whether this is for real a board game or whether it is not real. All right, so I'm going to actually share this really quick into a group to see if anybody else wants to join. I'll have to share it in one that liked to. It would be okay to share it in. Where is it at? Board. Oh no, I can't find it. All right, we shared it in a board game group. So hopefully some, I guess, people on Facebook only
Right.
will want to join in. So if you are just now joining, we're playing a game called Is That For Real? A board game. And you have to guess whether this is actually a board game. No Googling, no cheating. I don't know if you are watching. I guess I can't watch to see if you're actually Googling. I can watch Rodger, though. So, Rodger, I
Yeah,
can
when he
watch you
sees
to
me
see
doing
if
when he
you're
sees me
Googling.
doing that, and then yeah, it's gonna be pretty obvious if I'm doing that.
All right. So, the first one, barbers. In Barbers, you and a partner face the Sunday rush as new barbers, giving customers all the cuts and shaves they need while preventing the pesky old barber of the neighborhood from stealing customers from right under your nose. Barbers is a dice drafting action selection game for 1 or 2 players. You and your partner play barbers running a hair salon. There are 3 chairs in your hair salon or in your salon and a queue outside your shop. So, is that for real a board game? So again, if you're watching, feel free to add a comment. You can guess if it's actually a board game. Yes or no. And we'll go to Rodger. What do you think, Rodger? Is that for real a board game?
I'm gonna go no.
Why do you say no? Let's hear it. Let's hear what's going on.
I don't know. I mean, it's not too much out of the realm what they make stuff for, but I don't know. It just, I don't know. I don't think that's a game. I don't know. I don't think anybody's made anything like that, but it's just my thing. I don't know if a lot of people would want to do that. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that might be interested in it, but it's so off the wall that I don't know. It doesn't surprise me, some of the stuff I say in Kickstarter. So, you know, if it is one, I'm not going to be surprised, but I'm gonna go no.
No. All right. So you have some backup. Grace also agrees it's not a board game. Let's find out. It is a board game.
Oh, wow.
It's called Barbers.
Doesn't surprise me either, I guess.
It is made, I guess it's,
web,
I don't know
it
what
was a
language
web
it is.
published
Thai,
one.
maybe.
Yeah.
So it's
published.
based on Board Game Geek. It is a board game. That's the end all for everything, right? So
yeah.
It is a board game. Someone made it as a board game.
Interesting.
All right.
I was really like, maybe that is one.
Next one. In Potato, players work to create the correct combination of items in real time. It is a dexterity game where each player plays a card from their hand, a potato card, a corn on the cob card, or a flower card. In addition to the cards, there are actual objects on the table, including a corn on the cob, a potato, a flower, and every player gets a B. Players need to act fast to place the correct object on or in the correct space, depending on the cards that are played. So what do you think, if you're watching, or Rodger, is that for real a board game?
I'm going to say that one's real. It doesn't seem like one. Probably going to start missing everything. I'm going to say, yeah, it is.
It is a real a board game.
Grace
says no. All right, so we'll find out. It is not a board game.
Mosquito. Okay.
It's based off the board game Mosquito.
Okay.
And essentially it's the same game. So you have cards and you have a mosquito, an apple, and a bee and a flower. And based on the cards you play, you have to like place the bee on the flower instead of the apple and do something with the mosquito. I don't really know exactly how it works, but
gotcha. Makes sense.
So that one was not. The last one, this is number 3, Garbage Day. In Garbage Day, players take turns stacking garbage cards one at a time onto the overflowing garbage can or stashing garbage cards in their rooms. But once a player's room gets too full, they must clean up by stacking all the cards from that room on top of the garbage can very carefully one by one. If garbage cards fall off the garbage can during your turn, place them in your overflow pile. If your overflow pile gets too big, you're eliminated from the game. If all other players have been eliminated, you win. Is that for real a board game? You're 0 for 2. So Grace is 1 for 1.
I'm
1 for 2.
I'm saying no on this one. I don't know.
I'm going for all of you went, or no, Grace went no, no, no. Rodger goes no, yes, no. And that is a board game.
Jeez, I didn't get any of mine. But it's not surprising to me either. I mean, either, you know, it's just not a surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm not really shocked that I'm wrong on everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing about, I think, this game is there are some very off the wall board games, so it's easy to come up with tricky ideas.
Right. Oops. I'm gonna mute here really quick.
That's all right. So that is a board game. In Garbage Day, it is essentially stacking cards on a pile, and if they fall off, then you lose. I think in the game too, you hide trash in your room, your friend's room. So it's based off of like living with college roommates or, I guess roommates as an adult. Cool. All right. So that's it for our stream. If you are watching and you want to join us on the next stream, we didn't have any guests this week because it was our first time back. But if you're interested in joining in the future, feel free to send us an email. I guess I need to add our emails. So Rodger, if you want to share your email. Okay.
In the comments?
You can just say it.
Oh, okay. So it's just Rodger at boardgamingwitheducation.com. Yeah, there it is.
There we go. And then mine is similar, podcast, just because I don't have my own yet. I use this been using it for so long, podcast at boardgamingwitheducation.com. So if you want to join us on a future stream, feel free to send Rodger or I a message. We'll be back next Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. So that's like 8:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Central Time, 6:30 Mountain Time, I think, if I did those right.
Sounds right. Yep, you're good.
All right. So thank you, Rodger.
Thanks, Dustin.
We'll be back again next week.
Sounds good. All right. See you, everybody. Have a good week.